You know that really specific sound a fluorescent ceiling light makes when it's just sort of buzzing?
Oh yeah, that low, persistent, just totally soul-draining hum.
Exactly. So picture it. It's a Tuesday. Let's say, I don't know, 2:14 p.m. You've answered all your necessary emails, you are staring at a completely meaningless spreadsheet, and the clock on the wall actually seems to be moving backward.
Right.
You can just feel the sheer physical weight of office boredom pressing down on
Just
you.
like a universal vacuum, right? Just
Right.
waiting to be filled by, human desperation.
Yes. And today, for this deep dive, we are dissecting how the greatest workplace comedy of our generation weaponized that exact desperation into basically the perfect television cold open.
Oh, absolutely.
We're looking at the mechanics of those brilliant pre-credit sequences in The Office, because we aren't just here to relive the punchlines.
No, not at all.
Right. We want to explore how these brief microdramas establish character, manipulate the mundane, and, ultimately validate the absurdity of working a 9-to-5 job.
Okay, let's unpack this. Well, let's look at the baseline first, right? Because any analysis of these cold opens really has to start with the environment they are born in.
The Office itself.
Exactly. It's an ecosystem built on enforced stillness. When your daily routine is so slow that you realize there is, like, a finite limit to the number of sales calls you can actually make in an hour, your brain demands stimulation.
It has to do something,
Oh.
which is why the early seasons established such a beautifully low bar for entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, there's no high-stakes corporate espionage happening.
Yeah.
The survival tactic is discovering that there is apparently no limit to the number of cheese puffs you can successfully throw into a coworker's mouth from across the room.
Oh man, that cheese puff sequence. It is literally a masterclass in setting the temperature of a show.
Right.
The writers are essentially telling the audience, this is the scale we are working on. It's small, it's petty, and it is entirely relatable to anyone who has ever tried to, I don't know, balance a paperclip on a pencil just to kill 3 minutes before a meeting.
Yeah, boredom is the catalyst, sure. But then you have characters who actively weaponize that boredom. And that naturally brings us to Jim and Dwight,
Oh, the ultimate dynamic.
which is arguably the engine for the show's most complex, escalating pranks. Like, take the future Dwight facts.
So good.
The setup is so simple. Before Jim transferred branches, he stole a box of Dwight's personalized stationery. So from time to time, he just sends Dwight faxes from himself, from the future.
Notice the economy of that prank, though. Jim sends a message saying, at 8 a.m. today, someone poisons the coffee. Do not drink the coffee. More instructions will follow. Cordially, future Dwight.
That's it.
Right, Jim doesn't have to build an elaborate trap or wear a disguise or anything. He just tips the first domino.
And Dwight's paranoia does all the heavy lifting.
Exactly.
Dwight violently sprints across the bullpen and just knocks a hot cup of coffee right out of Stanley's hand.
Well, the mechanism at play here is the exploitation of the straight man trope.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, in traditional comedy, the straight man reacts to the absurd person. But here, the straight man is the absurdity. Jim's casualness only works because Dwight treats every minor stimulus as a literal life-or-death crisis.
Yeah, that's so true. And it gets even more brazen when Jim is given actual power.
Oh, no.
There is this sequence where Michael goes on vacation and makes the massive error of asking Jim to record all the office meetings and type up the transcripts.
I mean, handing Jim official unchecked authority in that environment is just begging for sabotage.
It really is. So they're in this incredibly dry meeting. A coworker is giving a standard update about 6-month corporate commitments. The tone in the room is pure monotony.
Painfully dull.
Right. And Jim, holding the tape recorder right up to his mouth, just deadpans, let the record show that Dwight K. Schrute is now completely nude and is holding a plastic knife to Stanley's neck.
The juxtaposition there is brilliant. The background noise is just generic corporate synergy, and the foreground is a hostage situation.
And when Dwight starts protesting, Jim doesn't even break character. He just layers on the fiction.
Yeah, he doubles down.
Dwight Schrute is now wearing a baby's bonnet, and then he just casually escalates to, I am now chopping off Phyllis's head with a chainsaw.
What makes that scene pop isn't just what Jim is saying, it's the timing.
Yeah.
It's the refusal to acknowledge the reality of the room. I mean, the silence of the other coworkers who are so checked out they don't even intervene. That is what allows the comedy to actually breathe.
I always think of their dynamic this way. It's like Jim is an opportunistic computer hacker, and Dwight is this incredibly rigid, rule-following legacy operating system.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Jim doesn't have to write a complex virus from scratch. He just finds the bugs in Dwight's programming and exploits them. He knows exactly which input, whether it's a fax or a tape recorder, will force Dwight's system into a total meltdown.
And the pinnacle of that hacking analogy has to be the identity theft open. The $11 franc.
The masterpiece.
The economics of it are almost offensive. Jim spends $4 on wire-rimmed glasses at a drugstore and $7 on a mustard-colored short-sleeve shirt.
So cheap.
For $11, he completely dismantles his deskmate.
He really does. Jim sits down, mimics Dwight's impossibly rigid posture, and delivers the line, "Fact, bears eat beets. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica."
It's so iconic.
But again, the comedy doesn't actually belong to Jim here. If Dwight laughed or even just rolled his eyes, the joke dies on the vine.
Completely.
It's Dwight's furious, completely irony-deficient response that cements it. Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year.
Yeah, Dwight takes himself so seriously that he inadvertently becomes the punchline. He is literally incapable of navigating the space between literal truth and sarcasm.
Which is a perfect pivot, actually, because Jim makes this look effortless.
He does.
He reads the room, he calculates the risks, and he executes. But Jim's success creates a very dangerous illusion for anyone watching who completely lacks that social intelligence.
I know exactly where you're going. You're talking about the guy sitting in the glass office observing all of this.
The regional manager himself. Michael Scott's desperate attempts at comedy are kind of the dark mirror to Jim's effortless pranks. We have to dissect the absolute agony of the Updog saga.
It is a study in the anatomy of a failed joke.
Truly painful.
Because the fundamental mechanics of a knock-knock-style joke require a rigid social contract. You say something strange, the other person asks a clarifying question, and then you deliver the punchline.
Right, and the premise of Updog is like middle school level.
Barely.
You use a made-up word, prompting the victim to ask, "What's up, dog?" So you can hit them with, "Not much, what's up with you?"
It's foolproof.
Or so you'd think. But Michael completely botches the setup on his very first attempt. He walks up to Jim and just says, "Is it me or does it smell like dog in here?"
He breaks the mechanical structure of the joke before it even starts. The word updog isn't even in the sentence.
Not even close. And Jim, being Jim, pities him and feeds him the setup anyway. He literally asks, "What's up, dog?"
He hands it to him on a silver platter.
Yes. And Michael, in his eagerness to just, cross the finish line, completely destroys his own punchline. He says, "Nothing much. What's up with you?"
And the silence that follows is excruciating. Because the audience knows the joke, the characters know the joke, and we are forced to watch the cognitive gears grind to a halt as Michael realizes he has derailed his own train.
But he refuses to abandon the mission.
He really does.
He spends the rest of the morning frantically trying to execute this joke on anyone who will give him eye contact. He asks Stanley if his jacket is made of Updog.
So awkward.
He asks Ryan what flavor his coffee is, suggesting it's Updog. He is literally sprinting around the office trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
It highlights a tragic flaw in his character, honestly. Michael is chasing the high of social validation.
Yeah, totally.
He sees the camaraderie Jim creates with his pranks, the warmth of an inside joke. And he wants to purchase that warmth without doing the work of understanding how human interaction actually functions.
And when he finally traps Dwight, Dwight actually delivers the perfect setup line. He asks, "What's up, dog?"
A miracle.
And Michael gets so overwhelmed by the impending validation that he yells, "Gotcha!" and then stammers out, "Crap! Nothing. How are you doing?"
He sabotages his own victory lap.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Let me push back on the cringe factor just a bit.
Okay, let's hear.
Because, yes, it's a car crash in slow motion, but there is something incredibly endearing about his sheer, unyielding persistence.
Endearing.
Hear me out. I look at Michael in that sequence like a toddler trying to perform a complex card trick for you.
Oh, okay, I see that.
You can literally see the cards falling out of his sleeves onto the floor.
Right.
You know exactly how the illusion is supposed to work, but you can't look away from the spectacular failure of it. You find yourself almost begging the universe to just let him get the words right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that's a very generous reading, but it points to a darker reality about his self-perception.
How so?
Well, the show frequently explores how Michael views himself as an underappreciated comedic genius. We see him trot out these highly offensive, boundary-pushing caricatures, characters like Ping or Original Poofta.
Right, which are inherently uncomfortable to watch.
Exactly. What's fascinating from a psychological standpoint isn't the joke itself, but Michael's bizarre defense of it.
Oh, right.
When confronted about how wildly inappropriate his material is, his defense is, comedy is a place where the mind goes to tickle itself.
That quote is wild.
He genuinely believes he is operating on this high-level, philosophical comedic plane.
Which makes the failure of something as simple as Updog so devastating. The guy who thinks he's pushing the boundaries of avant-garde humor can't even execute a joke you'd find on a popsicle stick.
And we cannot forget the context here. This man is running a paper company.
That is the crucial piece. The guy who cannot read a room, who cannot grasp the basic mechanics of a two-line joke, is the regional manager. The cold opens brilliantly subvert the traditional television trope of the wise mentor boss by showing us a leader engaging in absolute, unfiltered executive displacement.
Displacement is the perfect word. The cold opens often function as a window into how Michael actively avoids the burden of management by creating elaborate, chaotic fantasies.
It's like boarding a commercial flight and realizing the pilot has left the cockpit to walk down the aisle serving peanuts just because he wants the passengers to think he's a fun guy.
That's terrifying.
Let's look at the morning he decides to just pretend to be a baby.
Oh, holding the entire office hostage to his whim.
Yes. He wanders out of his office dressed in pink, doing a bit from the movie Look Who's Talking.
So obscure.
He's pacing the bullpen saying, "Look at me. I'm a baby. What am I thinking? Look at all those staplers. What's a stapler? I don't even know. I'm a baby."
And it goes on for so long.
And then he takes it way too far, as he always does, and loudly demands breast milk in front of his entire staff.
The staff's reaction, or really lack thereof, is key there. They don't rebel. They just wait for the weather system to pass.
Yeah, they're used to it.
They have learned to accommodate the pilot, serving peanuts, while the plane is in a nosedive.
And when his authority is challenged within these fantasies, he snaps. Look at the Harvey the computer incident.
Oh, poor Harvey.
Michael calls Jim into his office to introduce him to his new computer program friend, Harvey. The computer voice mechanically says, "Me so horny, me love you long, Tim."
A typo in his own script.
A typo?
Yeah.
And Jim, ever the opportunist, zeroes in on the vulnerability and asks, "Who's long, Tim?"
Naturally.
And Michael gets legitimately furious. He yells at Jim that he ruined the funny joke and kicks him out of the office.
He's so defensive.
Think about the power dynamic there. The boss is reprimanding an employee not for missing a sales quota, but for compromising the integrity of Long Tim.
Well, it's a defense mechanism. If he is fighting with Jim over a computer voice, he doesn't have to look at the quarterly profit margins.
Exactly.
The fantasy absorbs the anxiety of the reality.
Now, the ultimate manifestation of this displacement anxiety is the Vancouver Olympics reservation.
Oh, wow, yes.
This sequence is a masterpiece of manufactured stress. Michael is on the phone trying to cancel a hotel reservation for the Olympics that he apparently booked 3 years in advance.
For a street view, economy single room. I mean, the pettiness of the stakes makes the ensuing drama so much funnier.
He's arguing with the hotel clerk because he can't find his confirmation code. He throws out, "Could it be under affirmation because you have thousands of those?"
That's so absurd.
Then he finally locates this ridiculous string of characters, XV2RDM. He confirms it, the clerk locates the reservation, and then Michael just casually says, "All right, I would like to cancel my reservation, please."
And when informed there's a cancellation fee, he doesn't blink. He just says, "Okay, put it on my card."
He wastes 30 minutes of corporate time and company resources navigating a bureaucratic maze of his own making just to pay a fee.
But the crown jewel of managerial chaos has to be the peanut butter incident.
We have to talk about the peanut butter. It is the purest distillation